Uhuru Kenyatta is now welcome. Our reporter Mlungisi Khumalo is joining us straight from Durban, where the meeting was taking place. A very good afternoon to you, Mlu. We know that the two presidents will brief the meeting in about an hour's time, but do take us through South Africa and Kenya relations and what the two will be discussing today.
Yes. Well, a very warm afternoon to you, Alicia, as well as the viewers at home. Just to recap just a bit, in the year 2016 of October to be precise, President Jacob Zuma went to the country of Kenya. Now, that visit alone was said to be a very, very historic event, as no South African sitting head of state had been to Kenya for a very, very long time. Now, if you recall that relations between both countries started in the year 1992, but then they have been extremely stagnant. No form of trade has happened then. But when the president got to Kenya, they discussed various issues that range from health, transportation, infrastructure, as well as the economy. The president of Kenya did mention that they want South Africa to play a very, very key and vital role in ensuring that both countries intertrade. And now, if you do recall very well, in Uhuru Kenyatta's speech, he said Africa is not in competition with each other, it's in competition with the rest of the world. And he says one of his main tasks at hand is to ensure that Africans intertrade and that they become a competitive global continent. But the talks today, I presume that they will speak a lot about the challenges affecting the African continent as a whole. What are some of the challenges affecting SADC as a whole? And what are some of the challenges affecting the East African community? We also do know that Kenya is the head of that particular organization. And in the last few years, Kenya has had to play a very key and fundamental role in ensuring that there is stability in the area of the East African region. We also know that in Somalia, that country alone has suffered a lot with terrorism, etc. And Kenya had to be brought to be the negotiator. And South Africa could be told to come into the project and ensure that they train maybe Kenyan troops so that they instill peace and stability in the area. Now, let me go into the area of economics. We do know that South Africa has imported over 605 million worth of goods into the country Kenya. But for Kenya, they've only imported 15 million rand. 15 million US dollars worth of goods into the country. So the playing ground is not as level for both countries, but we hope that today they'll give us an update as to what really happened when Jacob Zuma went to the country of Kenya.
All right. And Mlu, what else is on Kenyatta's itinerary for his stay in South Africa? We know that he'll also be attending the ANC's January 8 statement and celebrations this weekend. And of course, in what capacity will he be attending these celebrations?
Well, as we know that his president, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, is part of the Jubilee Party, a party that is known to speak a lot of radicalism of the African nation, Pan-Africanism. If you do recall that in the year 2007, Kenyatta actually made an announcement during an All-Africa Gathering Summit that says he is against colonial institutions that seek to suppress African leaders. So we do expect him to fire a bit of shots there. I doubt whether he'll be there as the prince of the Kenyan country, but I just think he'll be there as an individual and as a guest of the ANC. And also, just after this press briefing, we do know that Uhuru Kenyatta, as well as President Jacob Zuma, will go to Inanda, where he's expected to lay a wreath at the cemetery, or rather the gravesite of the late President John Langalibalele Dube, the founding president of the ANC. But these talks will also focus on the recent instability in Zimbabwe. I mean, we do know that not so long ago, Emmerson Mnangagwa was installed as the new president of Zimbabwe after a coup took place. So maybe they might just deliberate on that as well. And also, just to note before you cut me out, Alicia, we also know that just recently, last year to be precise, the Development Bank of Southern Africa loaned some money to Kenya to make way for the Limusa-Ilosula corridor, which stretches from Ethiopia into Kenya. So these are some of the other projects that they've spoken about over the years. All right,
and Mlu, maybe just tell us more about this. I know that it's still on a plan at this stage, the issue about South Africa and, of course, Kenya having a no visa or passport rule when it comes to these two countries. Do you think this is something that is going to be brought up at a finality? Are we going to get a final version of what the decision is when it comes to whether or not South Africans and Kenyans alike going to either country are going to need a visa or passport in the near future?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, the last time the President Jacob Zuma went to Kenya, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta also made mention of that. He said he hopes that in the next few years, South Africa tends to ease up passports and visa issues. I mean, we do know that if South Africans had to go to Kenya, they have a 30-day amnesty, so to put it like that, if I can. But we do not, if Kenyans come into the country, they have to wait for at least 10 days and they have to go through a vigorous process of ensuring who they are and etc. But when President Jacob Zuma was asked about it as to why it was taking so long, President Jacob Zuma said, well, there are a whole lot of nations in Kenya, and one of those issues was security. He said that in Kenya there's people from Rwanda, there's people from Somalia, there's people from Ethiopia, and when they come into the country, they're classified as Kenyan citizens. So he said that those are some of the issues they need to look at. Security, to be precise. But I can confirm with you that I really hope that they bring the topic up.
All right, Mlungisi, thank you so much for giving us that update. Our report on the scene there in Durban, Mlungisi Khumalo, for us at, of course, giving us an update on that meeting. It is currently taking place behind him there. It is taking place behind closed doors. That is Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, who's currently meeting with South African President Jacob Zuma. And then they'll head off to East London for the NC's 106th birthday celebrations.